So this is a super personal to me type of video, but I'm actually really excited to make it. And it's kind of a topic that a lot of people are going to have their own opinions on, and so I'm actually really interested in hearing like other people's experiences with this advice. And it is about following your passions. FYI, this is my second attempt at filming this video because I originally was doing like a get ready with me kind of style, but none of my audio saved, so wanted to kill myself. Okay, but anyway, all jokes aside, let me give you some background information on me and kind of like my background and why this video was such a big deal for me to make. So I come from a family where having like a really, really good education is super important, right? You know, in my family, it's like you're not just supposed to be average. You're supposed to be like a doctor, like a dentist or something like that. I've got a lot of dentists in my family. So when I was young, I wanted to be a dentist too. And my mom loved that. Like, I was like a super academic kid. I was really good at school. I got good grades, you know. I was really smart. So I was like, I'm gonna be a dentist. And so when I had this pressure on me to like live up to that, right? I had a lot of pressure on my like academics and the fact that I was gonna be the dentist child. But as I started to grow up, you know, when I got to high school, I got into this program that was kind of like a dual enrollment program. It wasn't exactly like your typical high school where you had to become like a full-time college student. And this was like a huge deal for me to get into because the whole point of it was, okay, I could finish my like associate's degree that I needed for like dental school really early so that I could get into dental school, finish in my like early 20s. I have a cousin who did that, and at like 24 she was a fucking dentist. So that was like the plan, right? But while I was there in that school, I was like, well, I don't want to be a dentist anymore. I want to do psychology because I became very passionate about like psychology and like, you know, mental health and stuff like that. So I wanted to do that, but my mom was like, oh, please don't do that. There's no money in there. But I was like, nah, I don't want to be a dentist. I want to do this. So I was kind of pursuing that. But then some things in my life really changed and I got super depressed. Like really, really, really depressed. Like nothing in school was enjoyable, even psych, and that was something that I really loved. But the one thing that did remain consistent was that I loved makeup. I loved doing makeup. I loved doing it on myself. I loved doing it on other people. I was very, very passionate about that. And so that to me was kind of something that like saved me in a way. So I was like, you know what? I don't even want to be a psych person. Like I don't even want to do psychology like in the long run. Like just the fact of like applying for like other colleges like was so stressful to me. It was like I just couldn't do it. So I was like, when I graduate, I want to go to cosmetology school. And when I tell you, my mom freaked. She lost it. She had like a whole meltdown. She was like, I'm never gonna support this. I don't even bother asking me to take you to school. Like it's not gonna happen. And when I was younger, I was really I don't want to say prideful, but I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like I started to get a little bit scared because I was like, well, she's so against this. Now I have to make this work because I don't want to be like wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I became very determined to make this work one way or another. So I start cosmetology school. And at this point, my mom was kind of starting to get over that like explosive rant she went on, you know, a few months later. And actually, I really mainly wanted to just do SD. I didn't really think that cosmetology was really going to be for me because I wasn't the biggest like hair person. I was like, oh, I just really want to do makeup. But my parents were like, girl, no. If you're going to do beauty, you're going to do hair because there's a lot more money in hair. So I was like, okay, whatever. When I tell you guys, I went to cosmetology school, I
Hated it.
I hated it so much. I was like, I don't like doing this. Like, even my teachers knew that, like, I was not the hair girl. Like, I was the makeup girl. Like, whenever there was a makeup job that came into school, I was the one that did it. Like, even my teachers didn't want to touch it. So, that was a big deal. Yeah, so that was my passion. That was what I was good at. So I was like, I knew that when I got out of school, I was not going to do hair. I was going to find a way to do makeup only. So, let me scooch this back a little bit. So I was going to find a way. So one thing that I was really good at though when I was in school was I was really good at selling product. Like the hair products and everything. So my teachers would be like, oh, like you're really good at this, but like you don't enjoy doing hair, so like how are you so good at like, selling it? Because I was like, well, I'm just really good at like understanding that clients like don't want to sit in your chair and just like be sold to. I was like, I'm just gonna do their hair, and if they're like, what did you use? I'd be like, this is what I used, and they would like it and they would buy it. So when I was graduating school, I kind of started to think like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? Like, it was hard for me to like accept like, oh, I would have to somehow maybe tell my parents like, hey, I didn't really want to actually work at a salon and like do hair. But anyways, I sort of, play that off too the best that I could. And I started to work at Ulta. And I really liked working at Ulta. It came very natural to me. I was always coming in with like a full face of like crazy, like cool makeup. So it was really easy for me to, thrive in that environment. People were like, oh my God, like I love that. What are you wearing? I would recommend the products. Great. Everything was great. I actually like really like moved up really quickly. Like I got like promoted really fast, and I was constantly being like asked to like become like a manager. Like I worked with like, the store events. I was a really big part of like setting those up. It was really fun. It was a great time. So no regrets there. At least like not for a while. Anyways, so at some point I decided I also wanted to freelance. I was like, I really want to take clients, and building a kit is expensive. It's time consuming, it's expensive. You can guess why. Like you have to get shades in all sorts of shades for skin products, brow products, blush products, and all that stuff. So I was building this kit, but luckily I worked with makeup every single day, so it was easy for me to see like, okay, what products did I like, what products was I like, oh, I want to use this or I want to use that. Wasn't so bad. So here was the problem though. Working in freelance, you deal with the flakiest people, especially like where I lived. Where I lived, people were not very much like into spending all that much money, particularly on makeup. So when I built up my kit and I started like, kind of advertising like, oh, hey, like I'm doing clients and like this is something I'm doing, I got a lot of appointments, but a lot of cancellations. And the cancellations were not just cancellations, they were last minute cancellations. Mind you, I was kind of trying to work my schedule, my work schedule around like these clients as best as I could. Of course, I couldn't completely put them first, but I really tried. And then for people to then last minute cancel on me really like was like, oh my gosh, this is not like going the way that I wanted it to. And I was not business savvy at the time, so I didn't have strict rules for like, booking with me and stuff like that. Like I didn't have deposits. And another thing that I was constantly dealing with was people wanted to get out of paying. It's like, I don't know how, but like they would pay me late. Oh, I don't have the money right now. And me being a pushover at the time, I was like, okay, well, I guess, you could pay me later. And they would really string me along and try to get away with not paying me for a long time. And that kind of put me in positions that I didn't really like, because then I had to start like reminding people like, hey, you need to pay me. I did your makeup that time. And it would go on for a couple weeks sometimes. And I was still working at Ulta. It was just kind of a mess, and it started to put me in a position where I was starting to get really fed up with makeup, because I felt like I was always stressed out about my finances. I was like, I'm not making a lot of money working at Ulta, even though I was full-time, and I did eventually become like a counter manager for Lancome. But I was like, my freelance business is really, really wonky because these clients are really, really weird. So it started to put me in this awkward place until eventually it just got so bad. I was coming to work every day and I was miserable. I was really, really, really miserable. I did not find looking at makeup fun anymore. It was like not entertaining to me. I was really bitter. While I was working at Ulta, I also started to use my cos license. I was working as a lash tech, and that didn't last for too long because I was super allergic to the glue, which was really irritating because it was actually something I did really like. I was like, okay, cool, like I'm using my license and I'm doing service stuff that I actually was having a lot of fun doing. Of course, I had to be allergic to the glue.
My luck, right?
So I then was kind of just like, working at Ulta, but I was still dealing with the bullshit of people constantly canceling appointments, yada, yada, yada. So I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm having like a crisis right now. I'm having a lot of regrets. I'm wondering like why I didn't just like listen to my mom and have like a more reliable career where I could make money on, and then this freelance thing could have just been something for fun on the side after I had already spent the time and money building it up. It was such like, it really felt like a knife to the heart, to put it simply. So in this depression and stress that I was experiencing, I was like, it was getting to the point where I was like crying like every night, like crying every night in regret, looking back at like my experiences, like wondering why I didn't do this better, this the right way, which was like getting a reliable career and then just kind of doing makeup for fun. Because like I said, I couldn't even do the lash thing. It wasn't like I wanted to do hair, so I was not even using my license. And I was so prideful, you know, I was like, I have to finish this and I have to make it work somehow, some way. So my cousins were at this point encouraging me to come visit them in Europe, and I was like, you know what? I could use a getaway. But I didn't have vacation time. So this is a thing about me. I kind of have a little bit of problems when it comes to planning for the long term. I have this tendency to be really short-sighted. I think about like what's good for me right now, like what do I want to do right now. And I was at this point where I was like so fed up with everything, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna go to Europe for like 2 weeks. I needed a break. I needed to step away from everything. And yeah, sure, that's totally fine, but I should have secured a job for when I came back, just to save myself the heartache that is to come. So me and my sister go to Europe, and while we're there for the like 2 weeks, we were living it up. Like I was having the time of my life. Only towards the end of the visit is when I kind of started to then spiral. I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm gonna go back home, and then I'm gonna have to face the consequences of not having had something set up. And I was like really dreading it. I was like, I don't want to hear my mom be like, what the hell were you thinking? I didn't want to deal with like looking for a job while I didn't have a job, because then I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not secure whatsoever, and now I'm really gonna be screwed financially. So when I came back home, it was really hard for me to find a job naturally. Like I don't know what it is. Like if you don't have like a useful degree or like useful skills like in your resume, it's just gonna be hard to find a job. Like no fucking shit.
You idiot.
But I was just tumbling mentally. I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna be homeless. I'm gonna never find a job. Like I'm worthless. And that really started to impact my like personal viewing of myself. Like I was crying even more, but like I would do it in secret because I didn't want like my family members to be like, see, I told you so. I told you that going into beauty was like a bad idea. I didn't want that. So I kind of just tried to act like everything was okay, but I was not okay. I was like really falling apart internally. But finally, I get this job. Like finally, after like a few months of looking, I get this job, and it's a sales job. It's like, you know, an office job, like a normal 9 to 5 sales job. So I get the job, you know, starting it, everything is fine. Like it's not terrible, definitely not terrible, but it wasn't all that great. I didn't feel like satisfied and fulfilled. Like I was definitely not like, yeah, I could totally see myself like staying here for a long time. I was like, this is just to hold me over. But at this point, I still like wasn't really willing to fully admit like how much I regretted the thing, like, you know, my choices and stuff like that. So, and I remember like when I was working there, one of my coworkers, and a lot of my coworkers were like older than me, he was like, you know, Dahlia, you're really doing good for your age, because when I was your age, I was just selling blood to get by. And I was like, that did not make me feel better. And then I was just like, it just didn't sit right with me. Not because like of him, but just because of me. Like I was like, I'm not living up to what I'm supposed to be doing whatsoever. So then comes another shift, another time period shift, and it is when the, you know, disease that forced us all into lockdown rolls around. So we get into lockdown, and I, despite popular opinion, I was thriving. Like I was like, this is great. Like I felt like I got the chance to like reset. I got the chance to like really sit there with my feelings and like think about everything and think about what I wanted to do to make things right. And a lot of people were encouraging the idea of going back to school. And yeah, that was something I forgot to actually mention, that when I finished my cosmetology license, one of my aunts was like, oh, so now that you finished that, you're gonna go to real college now? And when she said that, I was like, excuse me, like, what did you just say? But like, you know, looking back at it, I kind of get what she was trying to say, because that was not reliable. So I was like, you know, thinking like, you know what, I think I am ready to like go to like real college now. So I started a teaching degree, didn't like it, again, went through a lot of like spiraling and things like that. What do you know, I'm still in debt because of that, but oh well, what can you do? I tried it, didn't work out for me. What can you do? And then after doing that, I took another long break, like a couple years, but I still was like, I can't really see myself like doing anything with beauty. Sometimes like here and there I would kind of think about it. Like even like when I moved out to New York, I was like kind of thinking about doing something with it, but I was like, I just don't know if I really want all that stress again. So I didn't really end up pursuing anything with it, but it's nice to have, I guess. But at this point I was like, okay, I tried the whole passion thingy. Let me do, I kept trying to take the easy way out. And I even, like, even when I went into teaching, I chose it because I thought it was going to be easy. And then what ended up happening? I was just back at square one again, you know? So I was like, okay, I don't really think I have much of a choice. I'm going to go into something healthcare related. Hence why I'm in nursing school currently. And I was thinking, like, you know, this way I could do my things that I'm passionate about on the side, but I would have a career that was reliable so that I wasn't worried about money. If you have been there, you know how stressful it is to worry about money, to worry about your finances, and to feel like, oh my gosh, like I have no idea. Like looking at things that you want and being like, I can't afford that is not fun. Even just the necessities, being like, oh, I can't just like eat out whenever I want, or like I can't get, you know, I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but like being stressed about finances is the worst. It was a really depressing, sucky time for me, and it was something that I really never thought that I would go through, because when I was young, like I said, I thought I was just going to be a dentist. So it was really hard for me, like when I was going through it, because I was like, wow, this is just not what I envisioned for my life. I didn't think that I was going to be so depressed about like finances and like worried about like if I was going to be okay. So I know that this video sounds like really discouraging and it is like a sucky story, but that's kind of why personally for me, I'm very weary and not the biggest fan of the follow your dreams or like follow your passions advice. Unless you're a person who has like, you come from a family where finances is not really a problem for you because you've got something to fall back on. For me, I didn't really have anything to fall back on. So I had to figure it out by myself, and I had to like make it all work by myself, you know? And so I know a lot of people don't like hearing this, but if it was me and I had somebody asking me like, you know, telling me that they were passionate about something, I would say get a reliable career first and then do your passion on the side. So you're not relying on that passion for money. Like I said, like I hated makeup. I couldn't even look at it. This is the first time I'm doing really creative things with makeup because I could not look at it anymore. I hated it. And it was because I was so stressed about it because I was relying on it for my finances. I regret that.
I do.
And, you know, I got it turned around and I'm doing okay now. Things are coming together and I'm still young. So it's not ever too late to turn things around, but nobody wants, like, I would not wish that depression and that anxiety and stress like on anybody if it's avoidable. And it sucks to have to say like I don't think that following your passions is good advice, but what can you do? That's reality. At least in my experience, I don't think, like, if I knew then what I know now, I would have just pursued like a healthcare or any type of really reliable career first. But then I mean, again, you know, you can't sit there and live in regret forever. You have to come to terms with it and make peace with those decisions, and then just, you know, promise yourself that you're gonna, you know, learn from those mistakes and do better. And I did. And I, like now, like looking back at it, I can say, well, maybe if I started this when I was younger, I could have failed. It wasn't my choice to do it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I might have been like goofing off and not taking it seriously and then failed. And then what? be even more in debt, and then failed it, and then be even more resistant to trying it, because I'd be like, well, I failed at it already, so why the hell am I going to want to go back into that? And I did definitely lack discipline when I was younger. And now that I'm more mature, I kind of was able to make the choice to come back to school, be disciplined, and take it seriously, and be like, I remember what it was like to always be stressed out about finances, and I don't want that for me. So I am taking it seriously. So in that sense, I don't regret it. Also, like, I know that maybe I could have been bored. I don't know. Everything happens for a reason. But if you're watching this and like you experienced something similar, like, I can relate. And being in your 20s and like stressing over your finances, it was just, it was not fun, bro. Like, what I would give to like taking all that stress out of my life, really wish I could do that. But yeah, this story isn't to be like discouraging, especially because there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, look at me. Like, this is the year of like really like self-healing for me. Like, doing my makeup and filming these videos is like so beyond therapeutic, but at the same time, I don't think that I would have felt so confident in doing it if I wasn't doing something that I feel that I should have done forever ago. So it's never too late to fix your mistakes, if you want to call them that. I don't really love calling them mistakes, because obviously life is what you make it. You could turn all those sucky things that have happened into valuable lessons, and I really do feel like I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I have been humbled. So here I am, and things are going to be okay. You just need to try to actually think about the future without driving yourself crazy, and it's hard to do that, but I have to try to do that, and I'm still figuring it out as I go. And even still, like, this journey that I'm on is not so perfectly ideal, but I'm not giving up, and neither should you. So yeah, you live and you learn, and hopefully only good things from here. I had to really learn how to let go of like my anger at myself, and like my like, God, I wish I did this when I was younger. Like, I had to really learn how to let that shit go, you know? And yeah, here I am. So take care of yourself. Let me know what you think, because I know, again, this is a very unpopular opinion, one that people don't like, and even when I say it to this day, people are like, no, don't talk like that. But I'm like, well, I lived it, I experienced it, and it was not fun. So yeah, and that's it for today. This was kind of longer, I know, but it was much needed, I think.